Goodbye, Broadway. Hello, France. We're 10 million
On to
strong. Goodbye, streetcars, wives, and mothers. It won't take us long. Don't you worry while we're there.
In 1916 had seen the largest loss of life during World War I. Several battles at the Somme left the British Army in disarray, losing 16,000 men just on the first day of battle. Still to this day, the Battle of the Somme was the largest loss of British life on a single day. Verdun saw immense casualties on both the German and French side. France had fought fiercely to take back the Holy City, and after a year of fighting, they would. Russia was on their back foot, being pushed back further and further by the Germans, but seeing success near the Austro-Hungarian lines. Yet Russian citizens were starving, being conscripted, and overall had a deep hatred for the corrupt Tsar. It's insane that millions of soldiers put up with these conditions and were commanded to do so. The British saw their first successes against the struggling Ottoman Empire, the only Central Power that might fall. But it seemed that on any front the Central Powers were winning or holding their own, or even pushing in. The Entente needed something to break the tide of the war, and that would be the Americans. The Americans would soon declare war after several of their transport ships were struck by German U-boats, and especially by interfering the Zimmermann telegram. But the U.S. Army would only start bringing troops over in 1918. These troops would be a change of tides in the war. Though at first they would be fighting very experienced German soldiers, over the course of a few months they would implement their own tactics to counter the Germans. Yet the training did not suit them for trench warfare.
The lack of French manpower forced American soldiers to be directly put in the trenches on the front lines. Many Americans were under-equipped and under-trained, not ready for the trenches that the French had put them in. Men saw a quick and easy victory, one that the British and French could never achieve, but they found themselves in the same stalemate that the British and French had been in for 3.5 years. Many men were forced in these trenches, seeing artillery barrages, underground mines, and the everyday horrors of trench warfare, especially artillery barrages, which were truly traumatizing for the men.
Get down! Artillery!
Wearing a gas mask continuously made my nose bleed, which was very disconcerting, and I had to take off my mask a number of times to clear up all the blood. Why I was not gassed while doing this, I do not know, as I was in the gas almost continuously for several days. The only thing I got was a small gas burn on my hand. One gas shell landed right beside our guns while we were firing. The men all ducked, but were splashed all over their backs with the mustard gas, which is in liquid form when it first comes out of the shell. Within a half hour, the acid had eaten through their coats and had taken all the skin off their backs, and we had to send the whole gun crew back to the hospital. Some of them never returned to the battery.
New American soldiers in the trenches were constantly bombarded and gas attacked by the German artillery. Men were forced into dugouts and bunkers hourly and daily. In these dugouts, many men would sit and only think of their inevitable demise. This caused the soldier to develop shell shock and PTSD, as it is known today. Generals saw this as men being cowards and overriding the men to stay back in the trench and attack the enemy positions. Friendly soldiers would be executed due to their PTSD being seen as cowards. Many exhibited signs of hallucinations, night terrors, shaking, sweating, suicidal thoughts, and in extreme cases, the harm of others. Since mental health wasn't a concern during this time, men would be forced to stay in the trenches. This would only make the condition worse, which would after affect their lives until they were deceased.
Is that Tom? What brings you over here?
I was deployed like a month ago. What about you?
Yeah, I enlisted about a year ago. What happened?
I was deployed down near Argonne, and I was with division, and there was an artillery barrage, and well, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm the only one here that's left. Everyone else, I don't know what even to say. The things I saw, I can still, their voices, they just haven't stopped. I can't sleep anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I just see one of my best friends. He was there with me since we were doing training.
So sorry to hear that, but we're here now.
Mm-hmm.
What?
We're gonna
Go where? You're okay. You're okay.
Seeing your friends die in warfare is a very traumatic thing. Many men had friends that went to them with basic training, and even before they in grade school, these men had been friends since they were children. And when they went to war, seeing your best friend or best mate die in front of you is very traumatizing. People develop PTSD and even suicidal thoughts seeing their best friend die next to them. Many women fall into depression and then be falling into that cowardice state that journalists had seen them as. American expeditionary forces were deployed in a very contested trench position, which meant a lot of German stormtrooper raids, German artillery, and grenades would constantly rain into the trenches. German soldiers would then assault the trenches. They were very proficient in hand-to-hand combat and had a range of weapons from knives, hatchets, shovels, better for the congested trench conditions. Long rifles with bayonets were too big for the trenches, yet that is what the American Expeditionary Forces was told to use. So in many cases, the Germans would raid a trench position, kill and capture the majority of soldiers, destroy their objective, and get back unscathed. Besides being a formidable fighting force, the stormtroopers played a major role in psychological warfare. They were propagandized as relentless soldiers who would never surrender, and the clothing they wore made them look fearless and instilled fear in the American soldiers. Killing is a very traumatic sight, and yet nearly every person experienced mental issues after doing so. And yet killing was a part of war, and for many was an everyday occurrence. Men would again form PTSD or shell shock from this horrific sight. Yet when men are caught up in the adrenaline of war, it gets done without thought. Men would commonly get suicidal tendencies from doing so, and many would get irreversible effects from the sight.
You boys ready? I've been waiting for this.
If any of you take one step back, you get executed!
World War I ended on November 11th, 1918, 11th hour of the 11th day. America had suffered about 120,000 soldiers in the fighting, and millions would suffer from PTSD and shell shock when coming home. Many wouldn't be able to recover from night terrors and be forever paralyzed from the horrors of World War I. Very few recovered and were able to live simple lives amongst the rest of the civilian population. Altogether in World War I, 11 million men had died and 22 million were considered casualties. World War I was so horrific that we learned our lesson. We would never have another war so horrific and horrendous as the first one. Or would we?
Loss. Alright. Sister Susie sewing is for soldiers. That's Sister Susie sewing is for Sister Susie. So some soldiers sleep in thistle. They may sooner sleep in thistle, and the soldiers fluff. Alright. Fluff, 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 fluff.
A number of times to clear up the blood. Wait. Okay, that's a.
Damn it.
There's no bread.
Damn it.
There's no bread.
Take like 100 of this damn scene that I love so much. Not there. What? What the hell? I don't. What do you know? Oh my God! Oh my God!
That's
dude.
amazing.
We're just, we're not even dumbasses for that one. That's just, that is awesome. This is cool. That's cool. Get down! Okay. Artillery!
Suffering severely
Can you say Among Us?
among us.
End scene narration, take 2. Action.
Oh my God, Keegan.